What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single week I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the Global Wrestling Network. And ahead of SummerSlam this coming Sunday, today we're talking last year's installment of the biggest party of the summer, SummerSlam 2017. So I was at SummerSlam 2015. I was at SummerSlam 2016, both in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Had a great time at both shows. Maybe I'm just biased because I was at those events, but I thought this installment, the 2017 show, was significantly less entertaining. I thought it was a much worse show than the 2 years prior. Now, the 2015 and 2016 shows were not perfect pay-per-views by any means. Go back and check out my reviews from a year later and my thoughts on each event a year after the fact. I never said they were amazing shows. I had amazing times at both events. I had amazing experience at both pay-per-views, but I was never saying, oh wow, this is the greatest event in WWE history. Like, they had their faults. The main events, they've all ended in fluky fashion. 2015 did, 2016 did. The 2017 show did not. Main event was actually the best part of the show. Did not end in underwhelming fashion, a lot like the 2 years prior. But as an overall package, SummerSlam 2017 really underdelivered, at least in my opinion. So real quickly, we'll talk about the kickoff matches. We had The Miz and the Miztourage beating the Hardy Boys and Jason Jordan in a six-man tag team match. Really nothing of note there. They had the same match on Raw days prior, so no real need to check that match out. A great match here between Neville and Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight Championship. That was an awesome match, and Neville beat Tozawa to get back the Cruiserweight Championship. Great match there. And then finally, what I thought might have been the match of the night, even including the main event, for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, the Usos against the New Day. Why this was on the kickoff show and not fucking Big Cass or Big Show or John Cena and Baron Corbin, and I know why those matches weren't on the kickoff show, but really, considering that this was arguably the best match on the entire show, it really is a shame that it was slighted in favor of other matches that weren't nearly as good. But that was an awesome match, too, and one of the best bouts all year. So check it out, the Usos beating the New Day to regain the SmackDown Tag Team titles on the SummerSlam kickoff show. So the actual event kicked off with John Cena versus Baron Corbin. Now, on paper, I was looking forward to this. They only had one match, one one-on-one match prior to this point on an episode of SmackDown earlier on in 2017. And it was a good match. It was decent, nothing to write home about, but it was all right. This sucked. This, first of all, had no real feud, had no real bad blood, no real meaning to begin with. The only real reason these two were feuding were, for one, to get both guys on the SummerSlam card, and two, because Baron Corbin lost his Money in the Bank briefcase days earlier on SmackDown as a result of John Cena distracting him, and then Corbin lost to Jinder Mahal, who was the then WWE champion. So Corbin failed to cash in the contract successfully, which would not have killed his character had it not been for the awful aftermath. It would have been one thing. It's like, okay, he loses the contract, but he bounces back by beating John Cena at SummerSlam. No, he lost here too. He lost here clean as a sheet. This felt like a glorified TV main event. If that, this sucked. Thankfully, John Cena will not be at SummerSlam this year wrestling, because if they just want to get him on the card for the sake of getting him on the card, then no thanks, because this match sucked. I think it might have been also his last pay-per-view win too. I don't think he's won a match on pay-per-view since this point. I mean, the greatest Royal Rumble, but like, who gives a shit? So, John Cena has not won a match on a major pay-per-view since SummerSlam last year, which is crazy to think about. This also marked his first win on pay-per-view in like 7 years. Not on pay-per-view, but at SummerSlam. He lost the year prior to AJ Styles. He lost the year earlier to Seth Rollins. The year before that, he lost to Brock Lesnar. The year before that, to Daniel Bryan. The year before that, to CM Punk and Big Show. And the year before that, to CM Punk. So he had not won a match at SummerSlam in like 7 fucking years since SummerSlam 2010, which is crazy. But he did win here, finally. He didn't really need to win. He gained nothing from this victory at all. This felt like filler and did not need to happen. For the SmackDown Women's Championship, Naomi losing the title to Natalya. Good match here. I thought it was well wrestled. Just the crowd could not have cared less. Naomi never really had a strong run as SmackDown Women's Champion, which is really what the issue was here, because she was constantly being overshadowed by all the goddamn multi-women matches. Like at Backlash and Money in the Bank and at Battleground. She never really had a defining feud as champion. She had like a few matches against Lana, which sucked. And then that was about it. She never really had a true feud as champion. So her losing here really wasn't that big of a deal, despite the fact she had been champion for like 4 months since WrestleMania 33. But the match was alright. Natalya wins clean, wins her first piece of gold in WWE in like 6 years. Not even like 8 years, 7 years, something like that. Like I think 6 years, because she had last held the Divas Championship earlier on in 2011. So like 6.5 years, which is a crazy stat. But this was alright. The crowd didn't care, but the match was decent. In a singles match, we had Big Show versus Big Cass, with Enzo Amore hanging high above the ring in a fucking shark cage. A stipulation that I hate. Because every single time they've done it in recent years, it's been terrible. It was fine when they did it with Paul Ellering in NXT, but even then he interfered. They did it again mere months later on the main roster with Chris Jericho in the match between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship. That match was great. Jericho got involved anyway despite the shark cage. It was a complete waste. Same thing here. Enzo came out of the cage anyway because he was so small. So why the hell even bother? Even that notwithstanding, this still sucked. The match was awful. The feud I could not have given two shits about. Cass and Enzo had really been overdone by this point. Big Show, beating Big Show helped Big Cass a little bit, but then he went on to lose the very next night, or not lose, but get hurt. He got hurt in that Brooklyn street fight with Enzo Amore and was out for like 8 months. So him beating Big Show here did not even accomplish anything anyway. So that was dumb. Match was terrible. Then we had a match that really wasn't much of a match between Randy Orton and Rusev. Now the feud here, which did they even really have a feud? Like I honestly don't even really remember. But like I think Orton challenged Rusev to a match at SummerSlam because he didn't have a match at SummerSlam. Something really random like that. And I don't think we had ever seen them see them go one-on-one on TV prior to this point. So it was something new. It was something fresh. Something for Rusev to do. After losing to John Cena in embarrassing fashion at Battleground, this was his way of getting back on track. Well, the match ended in like 10 minutes. 10 seconds. Not even 10 minutes. 10 seconds. So the bell rings. Before the bell even rings, Rusev attacks Orton. As soon as the bell rings, Orton retaliates, hits an RKO, and it's over. So they were clearly cut for time. They were a victim of time constraints. But still, I mean, if there was any match to do it with, it might as well have been this one. It did Rusev no favors, and it was coming out, like it was rumored even prior to this point that Rusev was on his way out of WWE, and obviously still with the company a year later, but it's like, woof, like, I don't know, just the fact they flat out basically buried him in 10 seconds was a real waste of Rusev. Orton gained nothing from that. I guess what their mindset was that Orton had lost 3 times to Jinder on pay-per-view, so this was his way of getting a win back. But it really did nothing to benefit either guy. And going back to the Big Cass Big Show match for a second, I completely forgot to mention this. But a year later, Big Show has not wrestled a match on pay-per-view since. Big Cass has been fired, and Enzo's been fired. So that match also served even less of a purpose a year later. But anyway, for the Raw Women's Championship, we had Alexa Bliss against Sasha Banks. Pretty good match here. I thought their Battleground match, or well, not Battleground, what was it, Extreme Rules? Great Balls of Fire. I thought that match was also pretty good. This was good. They work well together. I thought it might have been one of the better matches of the night up to this point. Sasha Banks won in the end by forcing Alexa Bliss to tap out, became the new Raw Women's Champion for like the 4th time before losing the belt back to Bliss like 8 days later, so why even bother? But it was a good match. It was pretty good. Not a great match, but it was pretty good. Finn Balor beat Bray Wyatt up next. They had a match on Raw on the go-home show for the pay-per-view. For what reason, I have no fucking clue. Maybe just to show that Bray Wyatt could beat Finn Balor when he was Finn Balor, but not when he was the Demon, because we saw the Demon here for the first time since SummerSlam the year prior. The match was a basic TV match. They just never really had that great of chemistry. As characters, you would think it would be a cool feud, like they're 2 darker personas. This really wasn't that good at all. I mean, it was just kind of there. Very dull, very boring, very bland. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but it was by no means great at all. The important thing is that Balor won. But beyond that, the feud wasn't over anyway. They had another match in No Mercy. And they were going to have another match at TLC 2 months later. So this feud dragged on way longer than it needed to. For the Raw Tag Team titles, easily the best thing on the entire show up to this point. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, after weeks of teasing tension, not being able to get on the same page, rekindled their friendship on the go-home show for SummerSlam, got on the same page, beat the bar here to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. This was awesome. The only nitpick was that early on, the crowd was getting restless, so they were bouncing around the damn beach ball. Do that during fucking Finn Balor and Bray Wyatt, or fucking during Big Cass and Big Show, not during a match that is actually entertaining and interesting. I thought that was so stupid. But Cesaro salvaged it by going into the crowd legit and grabbing the ball and ripping it apart, which elicited a great reaction. I thought that was fantastic. And the match itself, I thought was awesome. They got a ton of time, a lot of suspenseful near falls. You had to figure that Ambrose and Rollins were winning, but there was always the chance they would not, work together or be a cohesive unit and would fall apart in the end and would fail to win the tag team titles, but that was not the case here. They persevered, they worked together, and became the new Raw Tag Team Champions. I loved this. The moment was great, the crowd loved it, the action was excellent, the crowd was into it. I don't know, I really, really liked this match. For the United States Championship, we had AJ Styles against Kevin Owens. A good match here. I don't know if it was their best match. Just something felt a little off. I mean, that could be said about pretty much any other Styles-Owens match from 2017. I thought the Backlash match, the first match they had on pay-per-view to kick off this whole feud, was better than anything else they had done in the months that followed. Now, they had some pretty good TV matches and on pay-per-view and stuff, but I don't know, they never really reached the level that they should have, and I think, to me, I blame for that the Battleground match just sucked. It had a terrible finish. It wasn't interesting. This match had Shane McMahon as the special guest referee, and it kind of overshadowed Styles and Owens because you kind of figured that neither guy would win until Shane got involved. So, in the finish, looked a bit off and botched anyway. But yeah, the whole Shane involvement really just kind of wasn't necessary, and it did kind of launch forward Owens and Shane for the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, of course. So it served the purpose. But I thought it was all about Shane and not enough about Owens and AJ going out there and doing what they do best and having a great match. So it was a pretty good match. Had the right result of AJ holding on to the United States Championship, but it was by far not even close to being the best AJ Owens match I've ever seen in WWE. For the WWE Championship, we had Jinder Mahal defending against Shinsuke Nakamura. This should have been Nakamura's grand celebration as world champion in WWE. It was a year to the day that he became NXT champion to take over Brooklyn to a show that I was at and fucking loved. That show was amazing. So for all intents and purposes, Nakamura should have become NXT champ or WWE champion on the show. His entrance was as grand as could be, with I think Lee England Jr., the same guy who performed his entrance a year earlier at TakeOver and during his debut, 2 days removed from 2 days removed from WrestleMania 33. I thought that was great, so it had a great touch. The crowd was into him. This was really the turning point for Nakamura in WWE. Now, his main roster run was not remarkable up to this point, but it was good enough to see that the guy was a star and that they should have put the championship on him at this point. Now, they didn't want to take the belt off of AJ when they feuded earlier this year, and that's fine. Nakamura should have been the one to beat Jinder on this show. And then AJ could have won the belt from Shinsuke at some point down the road. I just thought it was stupid to have him lose here because it was a dumb finish. It took only one Colossus to beat him. So it came off like an abrupt, awfully executed finish. Too much interference from the Singh brothers. Ended the same way that every other Jinder Mahal match did. They had no chemistry, not enough wrestling, just a lot of bullshit. This sucked. For a WWE title match, this was almost inexcusable. Not even almost, it was inexcusable. And the result of having Jinder retain the title without Nakamura ever beating him was ridiculous. So that pissed a lot of people off, and rightfully so, because Jinder never really cut it as world champion, so why would you have him beat a hot hand in Shinsuke Nakamura? I thought that was ridiculous. You get to the main event, thankfully one of the best things on the entire show, a fatal four-way for the Universal Championship. Brock Lesnar defending against Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, and Samoa Joe. This was phenomenal. Now, no pun intended, AJ was not involved in this, but it was a phenomenal match. With all due respect to AJ Styles. Brock and Roman obviously headlining this year's pay-per-view. Braun might play a role. Samoa Joe's the only one that's not on the Raw brand anymore. He's over on SmackDown now going for the WWE Championship. But anyway, the feud I thought was great because Roman and Braun had their issues. Joe and Brock had unfinished business from the Great Balls of Fire event a month earlier. I thought all four guys worked really, really well together. Had that big, badass vibe about them, which I thought was great. They all were like, we all want to beat the living shit out of each other in pursuit of that prestigious prize, which I really respected and admired and enjoyed about this feud. From the get-go, they all went, as soon as the bell rang, all went after each other, beat the living crap out of each other. It was fantastic. Not a dull moment in this entire 20-minute match. No, it did slow down towards the middle, but it was still exciting. They didn't really fall victim to the typical fatal four-way formula or the multi-man formula where it's only two guys in the ring at a time. I appreciated that they deviated away from that and gave us a true multi-man match where it was chaotic from bell to bell. I thought that was fantastic. And Brock got teamed up at one point. The real story of this match, Roman had a great showing. They all had great showings. Joe had a great showing. The real story of the match was that Braun Strowman was seconds away from becoming Universal Champion because the crowd went nuts every time it was Braun and Brock in the ring one-on-one with each other, which I thought was really cool, obviously setting up their match for No Mercy the following month. But still, I thought it was cool that the crowd was going nuts for it, and they gave Braun a lot of offense over Brock, putting him through 3 tables and the commentary tables at ringside. People really wanted to see Braun become champion. Joe too. They didn't pull the trigger here. They should have. They didn't. In the end, it was Roman going for a spear or a Superman punch, whatever. Brock picking him up, catching him in midair, hitting the F5. 1 F5, and that was enough to put Roman away. Yet, when they faced off at WrestleMania, it took like 6 F5s to put Roman Reigns away. So that was beyond abysmal. Mind-bogglingly dumb. So stupid. But as a match, I thought this was great. I mean, it had the right result, technically. I mean, the crowd cheered because it wasn't, Roman Reigns becoming champion, which was good. But still, Brock holding on to the championship when it really should have been Braun or Joe was a mistake. But at least it closed the show on a high note for once, and it wasn't Roman Reigns, and the crowd didn't shit on the show to close out the night. Even though, overall, compared to the last 2 SummerSlam events, in my opinion, this was a very weak show. Only the main event, the Raw Tag Team title match, I mean, those are really the only 2 matches I would go out of your way to watch from the main show. Check out Usos and New Day. Cena and Corbin sucked. Natalya and Naomi was good, albeit forgettable, with a nice title change, a nice title win for Natalya. Big Cass and Big Show was the drizzling shits. Orton and Rusev was a total waste of time. Banks and Alexa had a really good match. I've seen better from them, but that was still good. Balor and Wyatt was bland as could be. The Raw Tag Team title match, as noted, was very good. AJ and Owens was one of the better bouts of the night, but still not amazing just because, I don't know, I thought the Shane McMahon interference and all that bullshit was just too much overbooking for my taste. And then Jinder and Nakamura was terrible too, so overall, a thumbs down show in my opinion. I think this year's show has a much better card on paper, and I'm not going, but I still hope it's a good show, even though I won't be there. I'll likely be at SmackDown next Tuesday, as well as TakeOver on Saturday, for sure. SmackDown is still up in the air. We'll see about that. But yeah, be sure to check out SummerSlam 2017 in its entirety at your leisure, if you please. I wouldn't recommend it, but at least, cherry pick some matches out of there. On the WWE Network before SummerSlam this Sunday on the WWE Network. Be sure to like my review, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Next Tuesday, we're breaking down, I think, an ECW pay-per-view. I'm not 100% sure, but that will be up, I believe, next Monday right here on the channel. So until then, guys, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy SummerSlam on Sunday, and I'll catch your ass down the road.